I know a few good stories. They take place in a corner of America that might seem familiar, yet still manages to surprise. The settings are spectacular, the characters compelling, the action exciting, the plot lines unpredictable. I'm Tom Richardson. Join me as I explore New England's great outdoors, from Candlewood Lake, Connecticut to Caribou, Maine, from the beaches of Cape Cod to the peaks of New Hampshire's White Mountains. The stories are waiting. Let's live them on Explore New England. Explore New England is brought to you by your New England Ford dealers, your local REI co-op. REI believes a life outside is fundamental to a life well lived. Campers Inn RV, the RVer's trusted resource. And visitnewengland.com. Here's a story for you. One with lots of twists and turns, plenty of heroes, and a happy ending to boot. It's about the Charles River, which flows for 80 miles from its headwaters in Hopkinton to Boston Harbor. Much maligned and abused since European settlers arrived in the 1600s, the Charles now stands as a shining example of how a severely polluted waterway can become an urban treasure appreciated by a wide variety of recreational users, from cyclists to sailors. In downtown Boston, the Charles River Esplanade Park provides a connection to the natural world, even as skyscrapers loom in the background and traffic roars past on busy Storrow Drive. The park also serves as an important outdoor exercise venue, drawing scores of walkers, runners, and cyclists every day. In late June, I visited the Esplanade with avid cyclist Becky Smith, the Northeast Regional Director for REI Co-op, who was eager to have me test her company's brand new e-bike. So Becky, tell me about this awesome e-bike.
Well, Tom, this is the Co-op CTY 2.1, which is a Class 1 e-bike.
And this is brand new.
This is brand new for us this year, yeah.
So this battery pack, that's sort of the heart of the whole system, right?
Yes. So this is the battery pack. This is how you turn the E features on and off. The nice part about an e-bike is that it's still a bike no matter what. So if the battery's turned off, you still can ride the bike. So you have your shifters here on your right-hand side. This is for your actual gear shifting that happens on your back wheel. And then your pedal assist functions happen right here on your left handlebar. The middle button turns your little odometer on and off. And then the up-down arrows, up-down buttons on this take your bike from eco to normal to high for those really strong winds. The entire frame is welded together, as well as the rack is welded into the frame, which is really nice. You also have the ability to put on fenders on the rear if you wanted to. Each battery actually has its own individual key. We'll take the key and we'll open it up and we'll pull it straight off.
Yep, and then you can take it home
and
charge it up that way.
Absolutely.
Why do people choose an e-bike over like a regular bike?
So a couple of really nice things about an e-bike that are different than just your standard bike. The first one is because there's those pedal assist areas. If you live in a hilly part of town, if you have a hilly commute, you're able to actually get that little boost of energy, so you're not intimidated by the hills that may be out there as part of your ride. Because you have that pedal assist, you can actually ride this bike into work and not be all sweaty, which is really nice. The other pieces that are great are here in Boston. There are, we see all of the traffic happening. A lot of folks are turning to an e-bike instead of a car, which is really great when we think just about environmental impact. It's an awesome alternative.
There you go. You sold me.
Hey,
all right, now let's go put this e-bike to the test. Let's go ride around the Esplanade a little bit.
All right, now you're gonna have to remember that I'm not on an e-bike, so
I'll
you'll
go
have to
easy
be able to keep
I'll go
up.
easy on you, Becky. Okay. After I learned a bit about the operation of my CTY e-bike, Becky and I set off along the Dr. Paul Dudley White bike path to explore the Esplanade Park, which is part of the larger Charles River Reservation that runs for 17 miles along both sides of the Charles. Notable features along the park's eastern portion include the Community Boating Center, the Hatch Memorial Shell, a venue for public concerts and other events, several playgrounds, a beer garden, and an outdoor gym. Then, of course, there are the famous Store lagoons, created in the 1950s to compensate for original parkland lost to the building of Storrow Drive. Today, the lagoons are home to ducks, swans, geese, turtles, muskrat, bass, and enormous carp, which often thrash about on the surface during their spring spawning period.
Wow, Becky, the Esplanade, huh?
It's incredible, isn't it?
It is. What an incredible urban resource. You got the traffic whizzing by, but then you got the beautiful Charles River over here.
Absolutely.
So you got urban and you got nature. You kind of get the best of both worlds. Hey, thanks for leading me on this great bike ride along the Esplanade. Loved it, Becky.
Absolutely. Enjoy recreating close to home.
And I love
on the e-bike.
I might have to get one.
There you go. I love the values that we stand for. I love the community action that we're there for as well. I mean, we are opening our store in the Cambridge neighborhood as well coming this fall. Again, that'll have a bike shop. Every REI across the company has a bike shop available to you, which is a very important piece to our communities to keep us local and relevant with our communities. I grew up right outside of Indiana Dunes National Lake Shore, so I spent my childhood years running in the dunes, swimming in the lake, and just really found that the outdoors was a place that all levels of ability could find something that they could enjoy, that they love to do. Biking is now my current favorite passion. I absolutely love to urban cycle, and so I spend as much time as I possibly can on two wheels.
Naturally, it takes a lot of work to maintain the Esplanade, including its beautiful landscaping. And that's where the nonprofit Esplanade Association comes in.
So what is the Esplanade Association? We're a 20-year-old nonprofit. We revitalize, enhance, maintain, and program the park. What I love best about the Esplanade is that it just changes every day, what you want to do and what others are doing. You know, this job is gratifying because you come out and you see all the different ways that people interact with these 64 acres. Earlier this year, we identified Rob Gronkowski and, of course, his interest in leaving a lasting gift to the residents of Massachusetts and visitors to Boston. And so we'll be redoing the Charles Bank Playground with the Gronk Nation Youth Foundation, I think renaming it Gronk Playground, and bringing modern play equipment and accessible play equipment to the children that use that playground. We're also working on the Esplanade Riverfront Pavilion project, a $12 million visitor center, year-round amenity and meeting space for those that want to use the Esplanade. We hear from the public every day, and especially the past year. I mean, people reached out to say that the Esplanade was essential to them through the pandemic, and we were thrilled to create the atmosphere for them that made them feel comfortable. The Esplanade Association is responsible for the lawns, the trees, the gardens, the green space in the park. We do a lot of that work with a terrific in-house horticulture staff, but then also we do that with the support of a vibrant volunteer program. We bring 2,000 volunteers into the park each year, and that program is actually supported by REI, and they're the presenting sponsor of our volunteer program, and is a terrific partner to help encourage people, individuals, families, corporate groups to come out onto the Esplanade and to perform a day of service, and we're grateful to REI for that support.
For many cyclists, the Esplanade provides a convenient route for commuting to and from work in downtown Boston, allowing them to avoid all the infamous traffic woes while getting a daily dose of cardio. What many don't realize is that the Paul Dudley Bike Path is part of the much larger East Coast Greenway Trail, which extends 3,000 miles from the Canadian border all the way to Key West, Florida.
The goal of the Greenway is to provide a safe and accessible place for people to walk, bike, push their baby in a stroller, walk their dog. The genesis was actually in Cambridge, Massachusetts, 30 years ago this summer. There was a group of people, bicycle, pedestrian planners and advocates that got together and sat down and came up with the vision of a connected multi-use trail from all along the East Coast, from Maine to Florida. The pandemic, was really difficult for everyone, but one of the things that's been really rewarding is to see how important the Greenway and other similar trails have been to people during that time. They've really been a sanctuary of sanity and a haven of health. And in 2020, the East Coast Greenway actually became the most visited park in America with 50 million visits.
The bike riders, joggers, walkers, tourists, and others who visit the Esplanade today might find it hard to imagine what this part of the Boston waterfront looked and smelled like prior to 1910, when the lower Charles was tidal. At low water, much of what is now the lower basin was exposed as a putrid, debris-laden mudflat. It was not an inviting place. This changed in 1910 with the completion of a dam across the river where the Museum of Science now stands, creating a wide basin with a relatively constant water level. At the same time, the original Esplanade, a narrow strip of grass and walking paths between Back Street and the river, was created as an extension of Charles Bank Park at the easternmost end of the Esplanade. In the 1930s, landscape architect Arthur Shercliffe nearly doubled the width of the Esplanade and added canoe launching areas, monuments, extensive tree plantings, and bench-lined pathways. Construction of Storrow Drive in the 1950s spurred the creation of the Storrow Lagoons to compensate for land lost to the highway. Yet even after the creation of the Esplanade Park structure as we know it today, an ugly elephant remained in the room: the river itself.
400 years of industrial dumping, sewage, slaughterhouse materials being dumped into the Charles. Those who fell in it, not that long before I was born, you would be warned to get a tetanus shot. It's unimaginable to us now because the Charles River is really the jewel of Greater Boston. But when you had 400 years of that, it was in pretty bad shape by the 1900s and 1965 when CRWA was founded. We sample the Charles River. We work with the EPA to issue a report card every year so that people can understand the quality of the river. So a lot of our work revolves around bringing nature back into our built environment, sort of reversing some of the decisions that have been made over the last 400 years and having a different mindset. Not so much we will control nature, but rather we will work with nature, because at the end of the day, Mother Nature is going to win, and people need to realize while the river is cleaner than it was, the job isn't done. And I do worry sometimes if we tell too much the story of how clean it is that people think, oh great, the work is done. The work is not done. As the water has gotten cleaner and more attractive, you have more private interests wanting to block it off for their own interests. And so that is part of our work also, is to be continually fighting to make sure that there is public access to this beautiful river that we all paid to clean up.
While the Charles River is hardly pristine, its water quality has vastly improved over the last 50 years, as evidenced by the number of birds, fish, and other wildlife. When I launched my 16-foot skiff at the MDC ramp in Brighton, the only public launch for powerboats on the Lower Charles, it was almost impossible to imagine that I was only a few miles from downtown Boston. As the sun rose, so did the number of rowers on the river. That's not surprising, given my proximity to Community Rowing Incorporated, the largest public rowing center in the country.
The mission of CRI is to open up rowing to people from all backgrounds and walks of life, and we want to show that this sport, teaches lessons in life that are useful beyond the river. So we serve youth as young as 12 and then adults into their 80s or 90s. It's a lifetime sport that people can do. They can pick up at any time, at any age, and it's something that they can do for the rest of their lives. We teach a lot of people how to row here, right? So anybody that was interested could just come down, sign up, and get out on the water. We'll teach them how to do it.
And how many people row out of this facility?
We get about 1,000 people a day when we're busy.
1,000 people?
1,000 people a day. The blending of people who have really different life experience, and finding something in common here is something that's really special. We have programs for people with mental and physical disabilities. We serve youth from the inner city. We've got military vets that come here and row. This facility opened in 2008. Mm-hmm. The club has been around on the Charles River since 1985.
Okay, great. And it's amazing. You got these big doors that open up and close. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Well, do you think there's a chance I might be able to get into one of these shells and give it a try?
I don't know that we were going to put you in this shell. I think we're going to put you in something a little wider.
Yeah, that looks a little tippy to me.
That's a little tippy.
After getting a tour of the rowing center, I had the opportunity to try my hands at sculling. It turned out to be a lot different than rowing a skiff.
Just climb right in, that's it. Don't let go of those oars.
All right, I'm in the seat.
You're in the seat.
Oh boy.
Okay, and you can feel, right? The boat is, right, those oars really control
the tippiness.
Your balance.
Yeah.
Just place those blades right down on the water. It's gonna start off with just the arms to get the feel for it.
Okay.
If you hold on really tight and you put that oar in at an angle, it's gonna dive right for the bottom. You'll catch a pretty good crab that way. I don't recommend that.
Thanks, Kane.
Are you ready to take some strokes on your own?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, I'm gonna give you a little push here.
I'm free.
You're free. All right, it's all you, Tom.
Just drifting along here in the Charles River.
And nice and easy. We're not pulling too hard yet, right? Just getting a feel for the boat, how it moves. There you go.
It's trickier than I thought.
People make it look easy.
Yeah, I'll tell
right,
you.
but it takes some practice.
My son rows crew, and I have new respect now.
The Charles River is really an incredible venue for rowing. There are storied boathouses and programs up and down the river, and rowers of all walks of life and all skill abilities train here. You'll go out on a day when you're learning and the U.S. Olympic team will come by, right? And you'll see them, you're training on exactly the same field. You know, it's like having Pop Warner and the NFL, right? Sharing the same field. And that community out there is really special and one of the things that we think is great about training here on the water. Well, I find it's incredibly challenging, but also approachable. Enjoying nature, but also getting a nice, really good workout, as much of a workout as you could possibly want, is really special. There you go. It's a success.
After my brief sculling lesson, it was a relief to climb aboard my much more stable skiff and head downriver to my next stop, Paddle Boston's location at Herder Park in Allston. Thanks to the cleanup of the river and the growing popularity of paddling in general, the company stays very busy from May to October. By the way, paddlers who bring their own craft to Herder Park can also launch at Paddle Boston at no charge.
We started off as Charles River Canoe Service 1974 in the old MDC police building. Nice old boathouse, started renting canoes there. And then we started renting boats here in Boston in 1993. And now we have 5 places you can rent boats on the Charles and 2 on the Mystic River. Yeah, it's sort of, when I started the boathouse in 1991, we had 10 kayaks. So it was really easy. Just looked, yep, all 10 kayaks are back.
Helping fuel the growth of paddle sports has been the advances in kayak and canoe construction and design, which now makes it possible for just about anyone to get on the water safely and with very little training.
The legs parallel to the boat, and then one hand grabs right here in the center of the boat and the paddle. The other hand here on the shaft of the paddle, feet in, and just drop right down. Very smooth.
Hey, it worked. Now, when, say somebody's never been in a kayak or a canoe before, do you instruct them, or is that part of the deal?
Yes, part of the rentals, we ask you if they've paddled before, and we do an on-land orientation.
What do you think surprises most people when they get out on the Charles?
It's just the quietness and how you feel. You just don't feel like you're in the city.
That's true. What kind of wildlife can you? I mean, obviously lots of birds, right?
A lot of birds, and when you see the cormorants here and herons, they're here for the fish. So that's a good sign when you see those birds hanging around that they're out here fishing. The great thing of the Charles is the accessibility. There are 1 million people plus that live so close to the Charles. more people now think of the Charles as being accessible in a clean river. You know, it's not so much we're changing people's attitudes, that it's almost an expectation of like, of course the water should be clean, we should be able to go there. There are so many different boathouses, the access points, so whether it's a power boater, canoe, kayak, outrigger canoes, dragon boats, that, you know, there are a lot of different ways that you can get out and enjoy the river.
With sculling and paddling under my belt, my boating adventure on the Lower Charles continued. Below the Elliott Bridge, the personality of the river changes dramatically from relatively narrow and bucolic to wide and decidedly urban. After passing below the BU Bridge, I entered the broad Charles River Basin, which was bustling with all manner of vessels, including a variety of small sailboats hailing from the venerable Community Boating Center, my last stop of the day. Community boating was launched in the 1930s by affluent Bostonian Joe Lee.
In the 30s, he came up with the idea of teaching kids to build some boats and teaching them to sail them, bring them down to the river. The boathouse got built in 1941, and of course that's just on the cusp of the beginning of World War II. And in 1946, Community Boat, because that's what the West Enders called it, incorporated into the nonprofit organization we are today. Our marquee, or mission statement is simply sailing for all. And what really happened was some of the kids that Joe Lee had scooped off the street of the West End and taught to sail as children, they served in the armed forces all over the world, and when they came back, they came together and they incorporated community boating to be the organization that is focused on first kids having access to the river, also being very affordable, modestly priced for everyone else. And we've built on those themes to now have a really expansive, accessible sailing program.
Community boating has come a long way since the days of Joe Lee's ragtag plywood fleet, and the organization now maintains more than 110 fixed keel and centerboard sailboats, not to mention kayaks, windsurf boards, and paddleboards. Charlie himself is a longtime sailor, of course, and I got to see him in his element when he welcomed me aboard one of Community Boating's sonars for an evening cruise.
Now what you're going to do is take the other one and you're going to start pulling it out, and the sail's going to roll right out.
Like this?
Yep.
All right.
And trim that in a bit. That's what we're talking about. Brake, trim. Trim it right in, all the way. Nice. All right. Nicely done. We are just a couple minutes walk from the Red Line, the Charles MGH stop. Very, very easy access. We're on the Esplanade, which is a beautiful park along the river. So there's a lot of, people that are, it's easy to get to. And then, our front door is always wide open. And I mean, that's, again, it is sort of our purpose to be here, is to be the place that is absolutely accessible, but also high quality. Making sure that people get the best of instruction, the best quality, safe experiences on the river, so that we can put people out sailing very early in their learning curve. Basically, if you can walk, roll, slide into the front door and you want to go sailing, we'll figure out how to get you sailing.
With my tour of the Lower Charles concluded and the sun dipping low to the west, I thanked Charlie for the pleasant sail and headed back upriver in my little skiff. It had been a long day getting to know the Charles a little better and appreciating an urban river that wasn't always treated with respect.